Boss fired me for being too outdated for innovation, so I secretly gave my revolutionary software to their rival. Let me tell you about the day my 15-year career died in a conference room that smelled like stale Dunkin' Donuts coffee and broken dreams. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Drop a comment below. What's the most shocking betrayal you've ever witnessed? Share your thoughts with our community. My name is Sarah Martinez, and at 38, I thought I had it all figured out. Senior software architect at Technova Solutions, the kind of company that puts ping-pong tables in break rooms and calls pizza parties team building. I drove my reliable Honda Accord to work every morning, grabbed my usual medium roast from the lobby cafe, and built systems that kept their million-dollar clients happy. But apparently, I was living in a fantasy. Sarah, we need to talk, my boss, Brad Cunningham, said that Tuesday morning in March. Brad was one of those guys who wore expensive sneakers with his suits and called everyone rockstar, unironically. At 42, he was younger than me by 4 years, but somehow that made him the future of the company. I followed him into conference room B, where Janet Richardson from HR sat with her tablet and that sympathetic smile that every corporate veteran knows means trouble. The kind of smile that comes right before your world explodes. Sarah, you've been with us for 15 years, Brad began, adjusting his Apple Watch. And we appreciate everything you've done. But the company is moving in a new direction. My stomach dropped. I'd seen this movie before, other colleagues, other conference rooms, other new directions. We're embracing AI-driven solutions and agile methodologies, Janet chimed in, reading from her tablet like she was delivering a weather report. The board feels we need fresh perspectives to stay competitive. Fresh perspectives. Translation: younger, cheaper employees who'd work for half my salary and twice my hours. What exactly are you saying? I asked, though I already knew. Brad cleared his throat. Sarah, you're brilliant, but you're too outdated for innovation. This industry moves fast, and we need people who can keep up with the bleeding edge. Too outdated for innovation. At 38, the words hit me like a brick wall, but I kept my face neutral. 15 years of late nights, weekend debugging sessions, and system rescues that saved their bacon more times than I could count, and this was how it ended. We're offering a generous severance package, Janet said, sliding a folder across the table. 6 months salary and excellent references. I stared at the folder, then at Brad's uncomfortable expression. Something was wrong here. Companies don't offer generous packages unless they're scared of something. That's when I realized they needed me gone before I discovered what they were really up to. But they made one crucial mistake. They underestimated what this outdated woman was capable of. The next morning, I was supposed to clean out my desk and disappear like a good little terminated employee. Instead, I decided to dig deeper into why Brad seemed so nervous during our termination meeting. I still had access to the company systems for another 24 hours, standard procedure for knowledge transfer, they said. But I suspected there was knowledge they definitely didn't want transferred. My Honda Accord sat in the parking lot at 6 a.m., 2 hours before anyone else arrived. I grabbed a large coffee and a blueberry muffin from McDonald's on the way, comfort food for corporate espionage, you might say. Logging into the development servers, I started reviewing recent project files. What I found made my blood run cold. Project Titan, a massive AI-driven platform that would revolutionize how companies manage their entire digital infrastructure. The project I'd been mysteriously excluded from for the past 6 months, despite being the most senior architect on the team. But here's the kicker, 80% of the core architecture was based on my proprietary algorithms. Code I developed during my own time, using my own resources, for what I thought would be my next big pitch to the company. I'd been working on this system for 2 years, nights and weekends, thinking it would be my ticket to promotion. Instead, they'd stolen my work, filed it under Project Titan, and were preparing to license it to Fortune 500 companies for millions. My hands shook as I scrolled through the documentation. There was my breakthrough database optimization algorithm, renamed Titan Core. My revolutionary security protocol, now called Shield Max. Even my user interface design patterns, branded as Next Gen UX. They'd taken everything and erased my name from it completely. But the real punch to the gut came when I found the client list. Technova was planning to launch Project Titan in 6 months, with pre-orders already totaling $47 million. Companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google were lined up to license this technology. My technology. I sat there in my cubicle, surrounded by the personal photos and coffee-stained notebooks I was supposed to pack up, and felt something I'd never experienced before, pure, calculated rage. Brad hadn't fired me because I was outdated. He'd fired me because I was the only person who could prove they'd stolen my life's work. I printed out everything, every email, every code repository, every document that proved my ownership of the algorithms. Then I did something that would have made my younger self proud. I started planning my revenge. They wanted to play corporate hardball. Game on. After my discovery, I spent the next 3 days in my apartment, surviving on Chinese takeout from Golden Dragon and Diet Coke, plotting the perfect revenge. My cat, Whiskers, kept me company while I mapped out Technova's vulnerabilities like a military strategist. The beautiful thing about being a senior architect for 15 years. You know exactly where all the bodies are buried. I made a list of Technova's biggest competitors, but one name kept jumping out: Innovate Systems. They were our primary rival, always one step behind us in the market, desperately trying to break into the AI infrastructure space. Their CEO, Marcus Thompson, had been poaching Technova talent for years. More importantly, Marcus had a reputation for being ethical. Old-school handshake deals, treating employees like family, the whole 9 yards. Everything Technova pretended to be but wasn't. My plan was simple but devastating. Prove legal ownership of my algorithms. Offer them to Innovate Systems for free. Watch Technova's $47 million project crumble. Destroy Brad's career in the process. But I needed ironclad legal protection first. I drove my Honda to downtown Seattle and met with Patricia Chen, an intellectual property lawyer who specialized in tech theft cases. Her office overlooked Pike Place Market, and she served me excellent coffee while I explained my situation. Do you have documentation proving you developed these algorithms independently? Patricia asked, reviewing my printed evidence. Every bit of it, I said, sliding over a thick folder. Time-stamped personal emails, version control logs from my private GitHub repository, even receipts for the computer equipment I bought to develop the code. Patricia smiled, the kind of smile that probably made opposing lawyers nervous. Sarah, they screwed with the wrong person. Your case is bulletproof. So what's my next move? We send a cease and desist letter to Technova, then you're free to license your intellectual property to whoever you want. Legally, you own this technology, not them. I felt a surge of satisfaction. How long do I have before they can fight back? With this evidence, they can't fight back. They'll have to abandon Project Titan entirely or face criminal charges for IP theft. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. That evening, I crafted an email to Marcus Thompson at Innovate Systems. Nothing fancy, just a simple message asking if he'd be interested in a game-changing opportunity that could put his company ahead of Technova permanently. His response came back within an hour. I'm listening. The trap was set. Now it was time to spring it. Marcus Thompson wasn't what I expected. Most tech CEOs are either awkward introverts or narcissistic show-offs. Marcus was neither. He was a regular guy in his 50s who wore jeans and flannel shirts to work and kept pictures of his golden retriever, Buddy, on his desk. His office at Innovate Systems felt like a normal workplace, no ping-pong tables, no motivational posters, just people doing good work without the Silicon Valley circus act. Sarah, I've heard great things about you, Marcus said, offering me coffee from an actual coffee pot instead of some fancy espresso machine. Half my development team has tried to recruit you over the years. I accepted the coffee, it was surprisingly good. Marcus, what I'm about to show you will change everything for your company. But first, I need your word that this conversation stays between us until we shake hands on a deal. You have it, he said without hesitation. I opened my laptop and walked him through my algorithms. Not the stolen Technova version, my original code, with my personal documentation and development notes. I showed him the database optimization that could cut server costs by 60%. The security protocol that was virtually unhackable. The user interface that made complex systems feel intuitive. Marcus's eyes got wider with each demonstration. This is revolutionary, he whispered. How long did this take you to develop? 2 years. Every night, every weekend. I thought I was building my future at Technova. I paused, letting the anger creep into my voice. Instead, they stole it and fired me for being too outdated for innovation. Marcus sat back in his chair, processing everything. What are you proposing? I'm offering you exclusive licensing rights to all of this technology. Everything you need to leapfrog Technova and dominate the AI infrastructure market. What's your price? Here's where my revenge got creative. I don't want money, Marcus. I want justice. License this technology for free, beat Technova to market, and offer me a position where I can watch their company crumble from the inside. Marcus stared at me for a long moment. You're not just looking for a new job, are you? You're looking for revenge. Damn right I am. He smiled, not the fake corporate smile I was used to, but a genuine expression of respect. Sarah, I've been waiting 15 years for someone to hand me the keys to beating Technova. But I have to ask, is this legal? I pulled out Patricia Chen's letter. My lawyer says it's not just legal, it's bulletproof. I own this technology, and I can license it to anyone I choose. Marcus read the letter twice, then looked up at me with something that might have been admiration. When can you start? How about Monday? We shook hands, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the sweet taste of revenge served cold. The next 8 weeks were the most satisfying of my professional life. While Technova scrambled to prepare their stolen Project Titan for launch, I worked 18-hour days at Innovate Systems, helping them implement my technology under a new name, Project Phoenix. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was literally rising from the ashes of my old career. Marcus gave me everything I needed, a team of brilliant developers, unlimited resources, and most importantly, the trust to build something extraordinary. My Honda Accord was replaced by a company BMW, but honestly, the real upgrade was having colleagues who respected my expertise instead of questioning my relevance. By week 6, we were ready to drop the bomb. Marcus called a press conference for Thursday morning. The tech press showed up expecting another boring product announcement. Instead, they got a demonstration that left the entire industry speechless. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus announced, Innovate Systems is proud to introduce Project Phoenix, the first truly intelligent AI infrastructure platform. I stood at the back of the room, watching journalists frantically take notes as Marcus demonstrated capabilities that wouldn't have been possible without my algorithms. The database optimization that made their systems run like rockets. The security protocol that made their platform unhackable. The interface that turned complex processes into simple clicks. Everything Technova had planned to launch in 2 months, we were shipping next week. But the real satisfaction came from the questions afterward. Mr. Thompson, how did you develop this technology so quickly? Marcus smiled. We didn't develop it quickly. We developed it right. Sometimes the best innovations come from experience, not from chasing the latest trends. This platform seems remarkably similar to Technova's rumored Project Titan. Any comment? I wouldn't know, Marcus said. We've been working on this for years. If Technova has something similar, great minds must think alike. I pulled out my phone and checked the Technova stock price. Down 12% in the past hour. That afternoon, my phone rang. Brad Cunningham. Sarah, we need to talk. Do we? I asked, sipping my afternoon coffee in my new corner office. You can't do this. That technology belongs to Technova. I laughed, actually laughed out loud. Brad, I have a question for you. Who developed the core algorithms that make Project Titan work? Silence. That's what I thought. Check your email. I hung up and sent him Patricia Chen's cease and desist letter, along with a simple message, enjoy explaining this to your board. The dominoes were falling, and I was just getting started. The call came on a Friday afternoon, 3 weeks after our Phoenix launch. Janet Richardson from Technova HR, the same woman who'd sat there with her tablet while Brad fired me for being outdated. Sarah, we'd like to schedule a meeting. Would you now? I leaned back in my new executive chair, watching Seattle traffic through my corner office window. What kind of meeting? We think there's been a misunderstanding. Technova would like to discuss bringing you back. I nearly choked on my coffee. Bringing me back? As what? Senior Vice President of Innovation. Your own team, your own budget, full creative control over all AI initiatives. The desperation in her voice was delicious. Janet, didn't you people fire me for being too outdated for innovation? That was a mistake in communication. A mistake in communication, I repeated. Is that what we're calling theft now? Silence on the other end. Sarah, could you at least take the meeting? Brad would really like to speak with you. I almost said no. Almost. But I realized I wanted to see Brad's face when he tried to explain how his fresh perspectives had lost the company $47 million in pre-orders. Fine, but I'm bringing my lawyer. The meeting was scheduled for Monday morning in the same conference room B where they'd fired me. The irony was perfect. I arrived in my new BMW, wearing a tailored suit that cost more than my old monthly car payment. Patricia Chen sat beside me, looking like she was enjoying herself immensely. Brad looked like he'd aged 5 years in 2 months. His expensive sneakers were scuffed, his Apple Watch had been replaced with a regular timepiece, and his usual cockiness had been replaced with something that looked suspiciously like fear. Sarah, thank you for coming, he said, offering his hand. I didn't take it. Let's cut to the chase, Brad. You stole my technology, fired me to cover your tracks, and now you're hemorrhaging clients because you can't deliver what you promised. What exactly do you want? We want to make this right, Janet said, sliding a folder across the table. Full reinstatement, back pay, and a promotion to senior VP. I opened the folder. The salary offer was triple what I'd been making before. The benefits package was absurd. Stock options that would have made me rich if Technova hadn't been circling the drain. What about Project Titan? I asked. Brad shifted uncomfortably. We're shelving it. Pivoting to other opportunities. You mean you're abandoning it because you never owned the technology in the first place? Sarah, please, he said, and for the first time since I'd known him, Brad Cunningham looked genuinely desperate. You were right. We made a mistake. We need you. I looked at the offer, then at Patricia, who gave me a subtle nod. She'd prepared me for this moment. I appreciate the offer, I said, closing the folder. But I'm afraid I'll have to decline. Sarah, please reconsider. You see, Brad, I've learned something important these past few months. I'm not outdated. I'm not behind the times. I'm not too old for innovation. I stood up, smoothing my suit jacket. I'm exactly where I need to be. And with that, I walked out of conference room B for the last time, leaving my former boss sitting in the wreckage of his own making. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my corner office at Innovate Systems, watching the Seattle skyline while my team puts the finishing touches on Phoenix 2.0. The original platform has been so successful that we've captured 60% of Technova's former market share. Technova's stock is down 70% from its peak. Brad Cunningham was terminated 3 months ago, and the company is rumored to be shopping for a buyer. Turns out, calling your most experienced developer outdated and then stealing her life's work isn't a sustainable business strategy. Marcus knocked on my door this morning with news that made my victory complete. Sarah, I just got off the phone with Google, he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. They want to license Phoenix for their entire cloud infrastructure. It's a $200 million deal. I smiled, thinking about the irony. Weren't they on Technova's original client list for Project Titan? They were, but they pulled out when Technova couldn't deliver. Apparently, the demo was underwhelming. Of course it was. You can't build revolutionary technology when you don't understand the foundation it's built on. There's more, Marcus continued. They want to discuss acquiring Innovate Systems entirely. The offer is $1.2 billion. I sat back, processing the number. My revenge had accidentally made me wealthy beyond my wildest dreams. What do you think? Marcus asked. I think, I said, looking at the photo on my desk, me and my team celebrating our first major client win, that sometimes the best revenge is just living well. Marcus laughed. So we take the deal. We take the deal, but I have one condition. What's that? I want to personally call Brad Cunningham and tell him the news. Marcus grinned. You're evil, Sarah Martinez. No, I said, opening my laptop to start working on Phoenix 3.0. I'm just not outdated. That evening, I drove my BMW home to my new apartment overlooking Elliott Bay. My old Honda Accord was parked in the garage. I'd kept it as a reminder of where I came from and how far I'd traveled. As I poured myself a glass of wine and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. Getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to discover my own worth, to bet on myself, and to realize that sometimes the people who underestimate you are handing you the keys to their own destruction. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Congratulations on the Google deal. You earned it, Brad. I smiled, typed back, thanks. BTW, I was never too old for innovation. You were just too scared of it, and hit send. Then I blocked his number and went back to enjoying my wine. Because the best revenge isn't just getting even, it's becoming everything they said you couldn't be. Sometimes the greatest victory is proving that experience isn't outdated, it's invaluable. And sometimes the best way to handle people who underestimate you is to let them watch you succeed without them.